Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Standardbred Retraining. This week I'm schooling Intro A and Intro B at home with Alfredo as our final prep for a dressage show that I'm taking him to next week. At the show I'm going to be riding through Intro A and Intro B, and one of the things I like to do to prepare is to just ride through the tests at home to verify that we can do it at home before we try to take the show on the road, if you will. This week, my intrepid mother held the camera for me, standing at C, where the judge stands, to film as I rode through the tests. I did ask her to pretend she was the judge. Now, keep in mind, my mom doesn't really know anything about horses, but I asked her to pretend to be the judge just to kind of help Alfredo understand that someone's going to be standing there, and just for us to really practice walking by the judge, introducing myself, etc. So I also asked her to pretend to ring a bell for me just so that I can also practice warming up inside the ring. This is Intro A, and Intro A starts coming down the center line, but there is no halt and salute in this test. You just, between the midline of the arena and the judge, you transition to a medium walk, and that is to make this turn, which is essentially a 10-meter turn, easier on a green horse. Intro is the lowest level of dressage, and so it's meant to be welcoming for a horse that's not super well trained yet. Then when you make it through that turn, you pick up the trot again at M and trot down the long side. I see Fredo's still working on his straightness and the connection, but keeping in mind I don't want to nitpick too much because he's a horse that still only has 2 months of training. So tracking right is definitely his more difficult direction, but I did feel that his 20-meter circles showed the appropriate bend. He may have had a harder time staying straight on the straightaways, but he really held his bend correctly here. And then this test has a change of direction across the long diagonal. And again, I do feel that straightness is something that's difficult for Alfredo, but I thought, at least in our schooling ride, he did a really great job of changing direction and staying straight. Then here we have a 20-meter circle at C, which again, I thought he did pretty well, although he's a little fussy in the connection, which is fine. That's just who he is right now. And then after the judge, between H, there's a medium walk, and then a free walk across the long diagonal. He doesn't really show much stretch. Really, his walk probably needs a little bit more work in the connection, more so than the trot. He's not really reaching and stretching down very much. But this is across a long diagonal, so it's a long free walk. And then at the end, you pick him back up and do a medium walk. And again, to avoid trotting that 10-meter turn, you walk down the center line and then at X, halt and salute. And so I thought he did great here. He was pretty straight. Again, maybe a little bit fussy in the connection at the walk, and maybe not perfectly straight at the end, but a lovely still halt. So now we're on to Intro B, which is a little bit harder because, well, first of all, it started raining, and secondly, you do have to trot down the center line. And since this is just schooling, I didn't love that first center line that I did, so I decided to scrap it and turn back and go through that same center line again and see if I could do a better job. Fredo's still trying to get the hang of turning from the outside rein. So it's a little bit better there, but then he did start to drift through that outside shoulder. And then apologies because I did confuse my mom, who has never seen a dressage test before, and she didn't realize that if I saluted twice, that it wasn't that the ride was over, it was that I was restarting. So anyways, this picks up a little bit in the middle, but we go straight into our trotting. And he has to do that 10-meter circle or 10-meter turn, I guess, that he did just fine. And then a 20-meter circle at E, which again, tracking left is his good direction. And I thought this was really easy for him. Now, in this test, I can never remember where the transitions are because it's between letters. So I couldn't remember if it's like before A or after A. So I just halt or transition right at A just to be safe. So technically, I think I halted a little early, or I think I walked a little early there. Once again, our free walk doesn't have much reach or stretch. And actually, when I picked up the reins again, he lost his rhythm a bit. but that's okay. And here I'm trying to really push him into the corner to get him round and on that outside rein again, which did work. And then a lovely transition up to trot. Again, it's between letters and I just couldn't remember which ones. So it's just before C and I did it at C. Another 20-meter circle here, and the circle itself was fine, but I do remember that I was having a hard time really pushing him back out to where the rail would be if I had a true dressage arena set up. And then he was a little bit counterbent as I went to take him around this turn. But because he was maybe overly connected on that outside rein, I did keep control of his outside shoulder this time, and he was a little bit straighter for his halt down the center line. So while I'm not exactly expecting to blow the judges' socks off, I do think that we can go out and put in an acceptable ride, maybe even a good ride, I hope. But even more importantly, we will be having fun, and Fredo will be getting important exposure for his second career as a show horse. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed so you can see how our show goes next week in the Standardbred Retraining vlog. Thanks for watching.